Good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Fire Caves, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Perry.
And I'm your host, David. Tonight we're talking about season 7, episode 4. Take me out to the Holosuite.
Clearly, though, David wanted to go back to season 4 for a second there.
For a quick second. Before we continue, you can find us on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube as The Fire Caves, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine podcast.
That is correct, and as I have said every single week, you should find us to follow us because we are great, we are awesome, we are a good time, and we are almost done with the show. So you should definitely pay attention now. We are going to be talking about a great bottle episode. We haven't really had one of those in a long time for this show, and this is probably the most expensive bottle episode that they've done to date on the show. So, great way to kind of get us into season 7 here with a little bit of fun because Lord knows this show has been nothing but drama for quite a while now. So, a little levity is always wonderful. Now, before we get too deep into the episode tonight, obviously we're doing this Monday night, not Sunday night. We had some things that went on um, last night, so that's why we're doing it now. So, hey, you just get a little extra us, I guess, um, for your Monday. So, there you go. Um, Now, before again we get into the episode, we always like to do a little bit of a check in here. So, David, how was your last week?
Well, work was slow. And then I had the customers come as a be back and spend some good money, but that was like the only sale I had for like 4 days. So things need to change, man. If they don't change, I'm gonna have to do something else. But anyway, gave me time to continue reading the Robert Morris book I mentioned last week, The Financier of the American Revolution. It's a pretty thick book. It's 530 pages, and it's very detailed. Some of the other biographies I've read are not nearly as detailed as this one has been. But the reason it's been so detailed is because knowing what was going on basically behind the scenes of the American Revolution, all of the relatively boring how do you pay for this and that is what this book is focusing on. And it makes it for a little more of a hard read, not because it's not interesting, but it's just so thick that I'm actually a little behind at the moment, which is fine. It's like I'll catch up, especially when I get to fiction. Fiction, easy to read fiction. But it's great to read about what was going on. Just, I mean, we really came close, according to what this book is talking about, of like the country not able to start because they couldn't pay for anything. Everything they tried to do just wouldn't work, and the value of money was just non-existent. And so that really made it hard to get an army together. And it took like 8 years for the Revolutionary War to really play out from 1775-ish, 1776 through like I guess 6 to 7 years. Anyway, it was a long time for them to try and figure out how to make things work. And Robert Morris was the guy who was working really hard to do all that. But I'm at the part now where the Revolutionary War is about over, and they're about to move into the post-war period. Um, that's a good book. I am caught up on Severance season 2. There's only one episode left of Severance. It is a fantastic show. It's so quirky. It's got weird things going on. It's got a great mystery, great what's going on plot. Really enjoying that. Reacher season 3 is out, so I'm been watching those episodes when
Oh
they come out.
yeah, have not started watching it yet. I fully intend to, but
Yeah,
have not gotten around to that yet.
yeah, it's still great. Reacher is a great show. Um, and yeah, I guess that's about it for me. Not nothing too fancy going on. How about you?
Just still making my way through the Expanse. Really enjoying it, of course.
Nice.
It has definitely kind of, it's as much as I love the series, obviously you kind of get out of reading it and everything else because it's not constant. There's so many other things that are going on, but once you just let yourself just immerse back into that world and what's going on, it's just so great. They give you so much. I love the descriptions
Hmm.
in the book, the attention to detail. It always makes me feel like I'm, eager to run ahead to the next thing. I want to see what the next part is that's coming for our characters. This book has been very Amos light. Uh,
What?
um, that's my only spoiler I'll give you there. Very Amos light, uh,
Bummer.
which I'm kind of surprised by, and I'm hoping that there is a reason. I haven't gotten anywhere to yet where they've offered any kind of explanation for that yet. We've kind of done this weird spot checking with, checking in with other characters, while also kind of advancing the world as it is with the whole, 30-year skip that we
Mm,
get. But yeah, um, I still love it though. It's still great. Still reading a lot of the other things as well, working my way through like Federalist Papers and so forth. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but I had watched the full series, or at least the full first season of the Alex Cross show that's on
nice.
Amazon now. That's, if you know anything about the author James Patterson and the books like Along Came a Spider, Kiss the Girls, so forth, that they've now decided to bring that character to life in a live action television series. I think
Right.
there's been one movie. No, I'm sorry. Obviously, there have been several movies with this character, but this is the first thing in a while that they've
Right.
done with the character. So, had a bit of a rocky start, in my opinion, as a fan of the Alex Cross character in those series of books. I do feel like it kind of got off um, again to a rocky start. I think
Mm,
it took the actors a little bit to settle into their roles. But they picked up on it pretty quick. It's got a lot of promise. I'm not saying that the first season was just this knocked out of the park hit, but there it showed a lot of potential. I'm looking forward to how they go into things in the next season.
right.
I also think part of the reason I didn't connect as much with the first season is I didn't like the guy playing the villain. Not I didn't like the villain. I didn't like the actor who played the villain. I've seen him in other things, and I've never enjoyed him as an actor. So
Mm,
seeing him again, it was just like it took me out of it a little bit. But other
yeah.
people I thought were great. Um, yeah, did that. I also don't know why, but I've suddenly had this interest in playing all of the Call of Duty games. It's just
Okay.
hit me. Like I've
Yeah.
a couple of them
Yeah,
throughout
man.
the years. Still to this day, my favorite one is Call of Duty Ghosts. I just
Oh
love
yeah.
that story. I was trying to play the Modern Warfare game because it's not the newest series, but it's the most complete series right now. And there's three games in the
Mm,
series so far. Can't seem to get the first one to work. Don't know
hmm.
what's going on. Got the second one to work fine. Brilliant, perfect, no big deal. But I'm like, I want to know the whole story sequence of events. Can't get the first one to play. So I'm still working that out. If I don't figure it out here soon, I'm gonna just send it back. But we'll see what happens there.
Right.
Um, Other than that, I have not started Reacher. Plan to start Reacher,
Mm.
and we can give you updates from there. So that's about it for me this week. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was my birthday. I aged up. I guess I shouldn't forget to throw that in there.
Did you get a
So
stat increase as well?
I certainly got more back pain. So does that count? Did I ratchet up the meter on that? Does that count? But no, I mean it was great. I got to hang out with friends. Obviously David was included there. Got to meet some new people as well. We had this is like birthday season in my family. I kick it off, and then my sister is next, and my mother. Then I've got aunts and uncles, and then my daughter, and then some more aunts and uncles. And it's just we kind of just go through like a block of like 2 to 3 weeks of the end of February to middle of March. That's just birthday, 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 birthday. So, we celebrated my daughter's birthday this past weekend, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
So she's officially in the double digits. No more
Oh
single digit
man.
birthdays.
10.
Hmm.
Yeesh. I remember when she was not 10.
Yeah. I tell her all the time, I was like, I remember when you could fit in the palm of my hand. I used to carry you around like a loaf of bread. Now I can't do that at all. So just crazy how time flies. But yeah, so we did all that, and we've had great day. She got a little sick, I believe, from the massive sugar consumption that she's gone through this past week.
Right.
And but we handled that, so here we are.
Gotcha.
But we're not here to talk about all that. We
Nope.
are here to talk about Star Trek and this fantastic baseball themed episode. The first baseball themed episode we've had in Deep Space Nine. And considering how important baseball is to Ben Sisko, the fact that we never see them actually in the holodeck, like watching a game or participating in a game or something like that, is kind of strange they waited this long
This is a
to do it.
season one, season two episode that
Definitely,
they had on the
definitely.
back burner, and they needed to like, oh, we need an episode real quick. All right, here's an episode real
Or someone said, if I don't get to play baseball, I'm gonna lose it. And they just
quick.
or someone was like, it'd be funny, Worf in a baseball uniform. And
Yes.
they made it happen. Like
Well,
any one or all of those things is what got us to where we are.
yeah, we have to talk about wearing makeup in a baseball suit at
Oh
some
my
point.
God, like
It's gonna
so
be
much of
something.
that. Yes. So to kick it off, do you want to give the
No, go
recap?
for it. You go
All right.
for it.
All right. So this episode, it actually has a really kind of like understated start. It's Cisco in his quarter, not in his quarters, I'm sorry, but basically he's in his office and in walks this captain, this
Mhm.
Vulcan captain, Solok, who comes in and he's like, here's what I need for my repairs. And he's kind of rubbing it in Cisco's face that he needs these repairs, that he's gotten this he's he congratulates Cisco on winning the Christopher Pike Medal of Valor or something like that, and Cisco's like, "Oh yeah, I know, you've already got like two of them or something like that."
Yeah.
So it's clearly establishing that these two individuals have a rivalry. Something has happened that's caused them to have this rivalry. So he's letting him know the repair schedule and all that stuff, and the guy's like, "Okay, it's going to take about a week. Fine. Well, since we're going to be here, I just thought you should know my crew, my all Vulcan crew, has been practicing this archaic, stupid human game called baseball, and we're really good at it. And we only do it because it's a way to show how petty and dumb humans are." Um, so he ends up challenging Cisco to his crew against Cisco's crew. Cisco informs everybody that, hey, I really want to beat this guy. We can make this happen. He kind of downplays the importance of the rivalry that he's got with him, but basically signs the whole senior staff up to play baseball in the holodeck. So they go out to the holosuites and they start practicing. Lita and Rom get in on it. So now we have basically the whole uh, Ferengi family. Quark's involved, Nog, Rom, Lita, all of our favorite Ferengi are in on this.
Right.
Um, Cisco and Jake, being the only humans who actually have any experience with the game, decide to coach the others through it. They eventually enlist Odo, who's going to be the umpire because, of course, he is. And they begin to have their practice. Everyone is showing bits of some kind of skill, but the worst player by far is Rom, which, of
Mhm.
course, it's Rom. Of course, it is. Which at some point it becomes so blatantly obvious that he is going to be absolutely no good that Cisco gets rid of him. This really upsets the rest of the players, and they're basically like, "We're going to go to Cisco and tell him that if he doesn't reinstate you, we're going to walk as well."
Right.
But Rom tells them, "No, this is really, it's not that big of a deal. I'm okay to watch you guys have fun." But they're not really, holding on to it. O'Brien gets hurt, so he ends up not being able to play in the game. Now they're short a player, to which Cisco does some rearranging of Cassidy's schedule and enlists his girlfriend, Cassidy Yates, into picking up some slack there and playing on the team. Um, he ends up having a conversation with Cassidy where he reveals why this game is so important. Turns out that a long time ago, Solak and he were, in the academy together, and Solak made several different statements about how Vulcans were superior to humans, to which Cisco took great exception and was like, no, basically anything you can do, we can do. We're equal. You're not better than us. You're not better than any other alien group. You're just Vulcans, basically.
Right.
This led to them fighting, and this led to Solok winning because, as was discussed in the episode, Vulcans have about 3 times the strength of humans and apparently are very fast as well. So the only people that Vulcans seem to not be able to outmaneuver or outpower are Klingons and maybe the genetically engineered doctor,
Mhm.
as Cisco points out. So after explaining this to Cassidy, Cassidy's like, "Well, you should tell everybody else why this is so important to you." Oh, forgot I left out. It wasn't just they had a fight. After they had the fight and Cisco lost, Solok continued to use that as an example for why humans suck, basically. He wrote
Right.
several papers about it. He used it as his justification for having an all Vulcan crew. And even like to this day, he keeps bringing it up and using it in ways to basically undermine Cisco and humanity in general. And now he's taken up Cisco's game to further ridicule, again, not just humans, but also basically any aliens that aren't humans, and Cisco in particular. And Cisco knows it, and that's why it kind of gets at him. So Cassidy is like, you should tell everybody this so that they have a reason, they understand your motivation, and they're further inspired to do this thing for you. Cisco's like, nah, I don't want to do that. I just, want them to play, and you can't tell them. Promise me you're not going to tell him. And she's like, yeah, sure, I promise I won't tell him. Very next scene, she's telling him. She's letting everybody know exactly why this is so important to Cisco. To which everybody's like, well, yeah, this guy sucks. Like, I don't like Solak either.
Yep.
So they decide they're going to now redouble their efforts and get out there and try to win. Day of the game comes. We get to hear the Federation national anthem, which was a weird song. Anyway, we get through that part, and we get to see everybody get to their various stations. Um, they're wearing their DS9 um,
Niners
baseball
outfit.
uniform, the Niners, complete with hat, which, by the way, you can actually buy. So if you want one, you should go on, like, I think Cafe Press had some. I know Etsy had several, and um, the StarTrek.com website still sells them to this day, officially recognized ones. So there you go. Anyway, they all take their positions. Jake is our pitcher, and off they go with the game. They have basically no success. The Vulcans are just what you expect. They're faster, they're stronger, they're just able to outmaneuver them almost at every turn. They do have a couple of successes eventually, but it's nothing compared to what the Vulcans are already, doing. They outscore them pretty quickly.
Mhm.
At one point, when Worf is up to bat, uh, the pitch is off. They get into an argument with the umpire about that, who is obviously Odo. Cisco touches Odo, which gets him ejected from the game. O'Brien has to pick up his slack as coach, and they're just trying to basically make their way through the game. Cisco calls for a last minute substitution and lets Rom back into the game, kind of showing that he's, coming out of this narrow mindedness that he had been in when it comes to Solok and winning and everything else, because he
Right.
knows they're not going to win. And then uh, Rom ends up having the best hit of the game, and he ends up helping the team score. I think it's like their only score, or maybe one of the only scores. I think they only got like two or three.
They only had one
But
score. Yeah.
yeah, okay. So, but it's a tremendous feat. These humans, these Trills, these Ferengi, Klingons, everybody was
Hodgepodge.
able to. Yeah, Hodgepodge group was able to
Score a
make this
goal. Score
score,
not a goal,
and
but score a run.
they're elated. They basically act like they won the whole game, much to Solok's
Chagrin.
yes. So Solok also argues with the umpire about said score. He
Odo.
does the same thing, touches Odo, which gets him ejected from the game. And again, everybody just goes back to further celebrating. Later on in Quarks, the team is celebrating again like they won. Again, Solak is very upset that they seem so enthusiastic and happy about their win. He tries to chastise them and bring them down, but it doesn't work. The team presents Cisco with the game ball
Mhm.
signed by everyone on his team that played. He's very happy. He offers Solak to sign the ball, which of course upsets Solak even more. They point out how upset Solak has gotten, naming off the various emotions he's displaying, which for a Vulcan is like the worst kind of insult. Like, not only are you telling him he's emotional, but you're able to clearly read
Label
his
them.
emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that really pisses him off, and he takes off. So that's essentially it for the episode. There's other parts we're going to discuss, of course, but that's essentially it on this episode. So, with that being said, David, Mr. First Time Viewer, what did you think of Take Me Out to the Holosuite?
Yeah, obviously this, as you said, is you called it a bottle episode. It's There's nothing about this episode that really has anything to do with any other thing going on in Star Trek and Deep Space Nine. There's no mention of the Dominion War. There's no mention of Cardassia, or well, I guess that's not entirely true because Solok's crew and their ship have been out on the front lines, so that's not quite right. But point is that none of that matters. This is all that matters is the Holosuite baseball game, and that Cisco loves baseball, and he has finally got a chance to get a team together and try and play a game. And the people he has to work with are all inept. They don't know the game. They don't have enough time to learn the game. Even people like Worf have trouble playing the game properly. And so ultimately, it comes down to a morality lesson of, you know, be there for others, be a team player, be happy and enjoy the success of other people, even if that means if you lose the game, what does it matter? You're supposed to have fun. So it's kind of a simple and straightforward episode. I
Yeah.
liked it for what it's worth. Frankly, there's not much to say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I think that's kind of the point because it's like, like you were saying, Solak indicates that his crew had been on the front lines for quite some time. Cisco even, I mean, despite it being Solak standing in his office, he's presenting as someone who's a bit more in a bit more of a somber mood, and this seems to be the first kind of injection of levity, of happiness, of some kind of return to normalcy for
Mhm.
our crew, and everybody seems to find a way to have fun with it. Like Odo gets into the signals and the hand gestures and stuff. You know, O'Brien makes bubble gum that he infuses with
Whiskey
scotch,
flavor.
uh,
Yeah. Was it
so that
whiskey or
he
scotch?
it was scotch that he can
Okay.
chew scotch flavored gum, which I cannot imagine tastes good. I've
Yeah.
had scotch, and the the
You don't
point
drink
of scotch
alcoholic
is to
beverages for the flavor.
not like that, not like that.
Yeah.
There is some flavoring to it, but let me tell you, it's not about trying to make that linger forever. You're not gonna pop gum in your mouth that you're in theory gonna keep in your mouth for at least what, an hour, two? No,
Right.
come on, let's be real. That
Right.
that can't have tasted good. That can't have tasted good. So um I think my favorite part of this one little scene was when Worf comes up to bat for the first time, and he is, trying to, get himself all warmed up and in position and everything like that. And Odo's like, "Well, come on, whenever you're ready." And he's like, "Do not rush me." It's like, yes, I love it. Just that little bit of Worf petulance because you're not really sure if he even wants to be there or not. Like
Right.
he's doing everything, but Worf is for the most part, he's silent throughout
Right.
this episode. So,
Hmm.
um, but yeah. So who would you rank? Who do you think was the best player?
Best player? I mean, I'd have to, I guess, just go with Cisco himself because he knows what he's doing. Um, I don't think they ever really gave us much emphasis on best player as much as emphasis on who sucks. What kind of
That's true.
difficulties they had.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rom being the one who struggled the most. Nog, of course, is actually more capable than his father, as he's always been.
Yeah, Nog definitely showed some skills, some aptitude there.
Yeah, he's the one who actually gets the run. His dad manages to get the bunt on accident, not even on purpose, which is kind of disappointing. It's like, let the guy have an actual bunt as opposed to he just messes it up. But whatever. He does it. The bunt happens. I'm sorry, Nog runs. Nog's also the one who gets the final out of that one inning. The he can't figure out which of the um,
Which of the
Vulcans.
Vulcans to tag?
Yeah, so he has to run to the dugout and
Yeah.
tap them one at a time. But he eventually throws it to Jake at home and gets the out. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know really if there is much to say about this episode. It's just meant for a
Well,
fun, lighthearted break from the, you know,
break from whatever else is going on.
yeah. I mean, last episode we had Garrett going through mental breakdown, and now we're having a game of baseball.
It's pretty much like, again, like I said, that I feel like there was just, it was, everything was very drama heavy, and it was just like, we need to lighten things up a little bit. We need to lighten the mood a little bit. And again, we've never done a baseball episode, so let's do this. Um, so for a little bit of behind the scenes trivia, while Rom, played by Max Groznicek, I hope I didn't murder that too bad, may have been the worst player. Rom may have been the worst player. Max himself is actually quite the accomplished baseball player. In
Really?
fact, he had the most experience. He almost, even to the point where he almost went pro. He was considering going from semi-pro to, I believe, pro ball at one point in his career before he turned to acting. And in fact, they said that it was quite difficult for them to show him playing as bad as he did because he has such great skill and acumen that he couldn't mess up. So they had to intentionally do things to him to make him bad in this episode. So
Wow, that's
that's
crazy.
that's yeah. The other people who had actual skills were, Jake, Ben, and Quark. They all have actual skill set in playing baseball. Most of the others don't, and it was agreed by all the actors that um, Kira, the non-visitor, was the worst player actually out of all the other actors that were there.
That
So
makes sense.
there
Yeah.
you go. If not the character, then the actor themselves. Now you know a little bit more about them and their experience. So, like you said, while there's not much to talk about when it comes to this episode, we do have some more behind the scenes stuff. So, one of the things I would like to talk about is everybody who had to wear makeup or prosthetics while playing this sport. Obviously, they're not in an air conditioned, temperature controlled Holosuite. They're out on an actual field playing in all that plastic and polyester and rubber and all that heavy makeup and stuff. Had to be a horrible experience because it looked like it was a pretty bright, sunny day they were out there playing this game. Can you
Right.
imagine standing out there and you've got all this, especially for the Ferengi,
Oh,
all
I
the
was.
prosthetics on and
Well, I mean,
ugh.
hasn't Rene Auberjonois? We talked about how he would sweat underneath his mask. I
And
can't
that was on a
imagine.
regular day. That was on a
Oh,
regular day.
well, I mean, the only thing I can think of is that I guess on set with all the lights, the heat actually was pretty warm on set. So maybe being out in the sun wasn't actually all that all that much hotter per se. But physical exertion added on with the heat, that's something else. So
Well, and,
yeah,
and since the prosthetics so completely, cover their face and their skin, I can't imagine it being, even if they're outside, it can't be comfortable because you're not feeling the actual air on your face, on your
right.
head, or anything like that. It's all closed off, painted over, and everything else. And yeah, I would have lost it. It would have felt like ants crawling on my skin. My skin's trying to sweat and beat up, and it can't because I've got 17 layers of prosthetic on, and then there's the makeup to hide the prosthetic lines, and they've caked it on for any potential close-ups
Yep.
and everything. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm surprised anyone agreed to do this episode.
Heck, that's probably why Worf says so little and we see him so little in the episode. Because
Yeah,
Worf has the most experience with the prosthetics. He
right.
probably knew what was coming. He was like, outside,
Don't come close to
yeah,
me.
outside shoot day. No, not even close. Mm-mm.
That is funny. I mean, we've had a number of episodes of people being outside doing this or that. So I guess they've had a chance to be by now to learn what it might be like outside in their makeup. But yeah, I can't imagine putting on the baseball suits and then running around trying to play a game. Cut action. Got,
Hmm.
cut action. you know.
I wonder how
Oh
many
man.
times they had to stop because like someone started sweating and then
Uh,
their prosthetic either like pulled away from their temple or something, or their makeup started to run, so they had to like put them in like a under a bunch of fans and touch them up and stuff, you know. Probably
right.
led to just like a hellacious number of touch ups and reshoots and quick shots and things like that because it just would have been a nightmare.
Yeah, I
Just would
can't
have absolutely been a nightmare.
imagine.
So, all that being said, who would you rather play for, the Vulcans or the Niners?
Well, I mean, if I wanted to win, obviously play with the Vulcans. But if I was with my friends, my people, which is the point of the episode, Deep Space Nine. Um,
You
yeah.
know, they go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. No, I didn't. Go ahead.
Well, as I say, they always make such a big deal out of how enlightened and cool and smart the Vulcans are. So it's kind of jarring to hear one express such, you know, xenophobic and racist views, you know.
Right.
Oh, he's because it's not just, oh, Vulcans are superior to humans. It's Vulcans are superior to all of these other races.
Mm,
My all Vulcan crew works so well together because we don't have to deal with all those wide ranging emotions that all the rest of you species have,
right.
and using an Earth game to further exemplify this is terrible, really. And I mean, again, we're supposed to think of Vulcans as so enlightened and aware and so forth. The fact that one would, express such blatantly negative views and be in Starfleet of
Yeah.
all things, it just, yeah, that was a bit jarring. And I was more than willing to take him down a peg or two. I wouldn't play for his team. I
Well,
wouldn't
and
play on his
also the
team.
idea that there was a Vulcan-only ship. Like, I would think the whole idea of the Federation is a melting pot, right? Like, the idea that they would allow for a race-specific
Yeah,
ship.
I always felt like that was something that's one of those things where, because the Federation is so inclusive and practices such a wide degree of tolerance, that they also get to a point where they practice the acceptance of, varying ideas and so forth. So I don't think there's ever been a mention in Starfleet of there being a ship crewed by all one race before. I could be wrong on this, but I don't think
Sure.
so.
Right.
But based upon what we kind of learn of Solok in this episode, I could see him making some kind of logical argument to the powers that be at Starfleet to at least try it, see what an all Vulcan crew in command of a Starfleet ship can do.
Right.
Especially during wartime, where they're probably just kind of throwing any and all ideas out there to stay
Right.
afloat and to win the war. So that's probably how this got done. It wasn't suddenly Star Trek kind of embracing a xenophobic mindset, but more of a hey, we'll try anything once. We're open
Right.
enough. We'll try anything.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that happening. It still though is I think something worth pointing out because if the Federation is supposed to be this melting pot, we've never seen anything like that up to this point. But yeah, I guess the real question is what were they doing for those 6 months on the front lines? Were they like in deep cover? Are they like away from base for a long period of time, or were they just a standard ship? It's just all Vulcan crew, but they were still overall a standard ship. But they given special assignment basically at any time. Um, yeah, it is true though that the idea that Solok would have like a personal vendetta against someone that he had beaten. It wasn't like he was angry. It was petty. It
Yeah,
was
he was definitely holding a grudge. I mean,
yeah,
there's no other way to to describe it. He was holding a grudge and he was gloating frequently at
Yeah.
Cisco's expense. So yeah, Solok does in no way exemplify what we've come to know and understand as well. Maybe
Right.
he was a changeling. Maybe we don't know. He could have been a changeling. He was. They were behind enemy lines for 6 months.
uh,
Maybe.
maybe.
So
I do like what Vincent said though. That scene of Odo practicing his moves in security. Yeah, that was
yeah,
arguably the funniest scene. Rene Auberjonois and Odo in particular calling out the you're out.
practicing the moves safe.
Yeah,
And of course, he took to the rules just so quickly,
he was a
directed to the
Vulcan
heart. You
in
know,
that sense. Yeah,
oh man, when he threw Cisco out of the game and he quoted the regulation down to the
paragraph.
chapter and paragraph, subsection C .69, whatever he said, he laid it all out, and then he was just, "You're out of here." It's like, yes, that needs to be a meme in and of itself. When you're just
That's
done with
true.
somebody, that right there, just get it out of here. So I would take
Someone
that.
add that to the meme template right away.
Yeah. I'm surprised it's not already out. You know what? It probably is. Like now that we've said it, we're
Yeah,
gonna go look and we're gonna find like a bajillion pictures where someone's used that. So nothing original from a 30-year-old show.
yeah.
So well, so we again we don't really have much to talk about in this episode. So I just want to go back to the fact that this is a bottle episode for us here in season 7. I don't like in my memory of this season. I don't think we get very many of those, but there are a couple that are coming up that I think are very interesting. Can't
Mhm.
wait to see those here in the next couple of weeks. But what do you think overall of bottle episodes? Like, do you feel like they have a place in any
Yeah,
show? Um,
yeah. No,
yeah.
I mean, on a show like this, well, let me say this. So I mentioned that I'm watching the show Severance, and then we're on
Mhm.
season two. Season two of Severance definitely has more of what we would call bottle episodes, as we've been describing them, than season one did. Season one moved the plot forward in a very episodic way. The story continued on. But like the last episode, episode 8 of season 2, which is the penultimate episode of the season, that episode focused on one character. Like the main cast didn't even show up. It was one character. What was this one character doing? Because this character has been absent for most of the season. What's been going on? The episode before that, same thing. What's been going on with this one character? The main cast basically didn't show up at all. Um, so episodes that choose to focus in on one thing, um, focus in on a limited area, like a limited space, or anything of that sort, is always very fun. And if you'll remember, one of the things I said when we were first starting doing the show, I said that I really liked episodes on TNG that really focused in on one character, and that you might call those bottle episodes in a sense. I mean, like the
Yeah.
episode where
I
Jordy
think
has
that's always been the term for them, at least as far as I've come to understand it when it comes to the Star Trek franchise. They've
right,
always been referred to as bottle episodes where they're character driven, not overall plot
right,
of the show.
yeah, yeah, exactly. We're focusing in on something about the character to move to learn something about them. Like this is definitely an episode about Cisco. Like part of the reason why it's funny this is happening in season 7 is because this feels like a message you would have learned back on season 1 or season 2 of, you know, learn to enjoy the people you're with. Don't you're not fighting against the other team. You're trying to be better than you were yesterday. You're not trying to be better than the next guy. You're just trying to be better than who you were yesterday. And so they were better fighting the Vulcans today than they were playing in practice yesterday, and that's what matters. They had success by just being a little bit better than last time.
Mhm.
So yeah, bottle episodes are definitely great and important. Yeah, there's no
I,
reason
I've
to ever deny them. Yeah,
I absolutely agree. I think this is something that should be touched on more, considering the way that TV has changed from the 90s to today. We've really lost that whole concept of bottle episodes. Everything these days, starting probably around, I'd say 2005 to 2007, that window,
Mm-hmm.
everything after that point became all about everything has to drive home whatever the plot, the theme of the show is. There was never really much time giving to develop characters anymore. If you suddenly did get a lot of character development, you almost knew right away that that character wasn't long for the show. Something was going to happen that took them out. Whereas in things prior to that uh, time period, there were several episodes that could be given to multiple characters. It was just about those characters. Star Trek did that all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of other shows did it as well. I'm famous for bringing up ER, of course. There were a lot of character-driven episodes on that show. You could almost say that whole show was nothing but various character studies at one point or another. Um, but yeah, I mean that's what you get when you have shows that have 20 plus episodes in a season. When we suddenly had that writer strike again, I think that was around 2007. As a matter of fact, the first one, a lot of that stuff was cut out, and we went down to 13 episodes a season. Now it's 10 episodes a season.
Right.
We've changed a lot in the last 12, 13 years doing this, so it's kind of upsetting because like you're getting a whole lot less, and then it also seems to be taking longer for the shows to develop. Now I know that a lot of the actors on Star Trek have talked a lot about the fact that they were working 16 to 18-hour days every day, 6 days a week to kind of hit this pace to get this number of episodes out. I feel like we've lost so much when it comes to stuff like this because um, we could keep up that kind of pacing and do much better episodes if you still would go back to a 13 episode model versus the 10, or in some shows 8 episode model that they have now. I don't know why that has suddenly become the thing, especially considering the amount of commercials that are injected into the shows. So really all you're getting is 42 minutes of a show, and you've got 10 episodes of that, versus if they gave us at least 13 where you could do some more character development and then you were still hitting that kind of pacing, you could get your shows out faster to the greater satisfaction of your fan base. So I really, it's one of the things I miss the most about 90s era television is the way that they could really just give you a lot that you could work with and obsess over, and that's what made people fans. You had 20 something episodes to watch, and then you didn't get anything until next summer or whatever that was. But there was so much for you to work with and discuss. Now there's just so little you know
Right.
so, and then there's nothing worse. Like, yeah, Vincent points out Game of Thrones had bottle episodes. Well, when you have a show that already is 10 episodes a season, and then they still throw in bottle episodes, you feel even more gypped, in my opinion. So, yeah, that sucks. Like, we've talked before about Game of Thrones and that whole trip north and finding a White Walker and everything else. That should have been a whole season in and of itself, not one and a half episodes.
Ah,
So,
let's not. Oh, let's
let's
not.
not
Oh,
let's not do
ugh.
that.
We can complain about Game of Thrones till we're blue in the face, man. Ah, the last best thing that happened was when Jon Snow met Daenerys. That episode, that 10 plus minute them back and forth explaining who I am. I'm the queen of the dragons, and I brought the I'm the Khaleesi. I brought the Dothraki together. Oh yeah, well I brought the wildlings together. I've been across the wall. Like I love that. Like I'm better than you. No, I'm better than you. And yeah,
You
that was
know,
great. And then from
they
then on, it was.
and what would have made that scene better was if one other person had thrown open the doors and walked in and said, "And I'm Roxana Troy, daughter of the fifth house, holder of the sacred chalice of Reeks, heir to the holy rings of Beta Z. Who are you?" I'd have loved it. That'd have made that
That would
whole
have
thing
been
for me.
great. Oh man, you would have been the only one, right? But
Oh
oh
yeah,
man,
yeah.
yeah,
I probably would have been the only one both clapping and laughing hysterically if someone, like, if that had made it like onto a blooper reel of someone just making
yes.
like grand title announcements and someone had done that. would have laughed so hard. Would have made me an insta fan of the show. I would have
Yeah.
done way more with the show if someone had done something like that. But of course, Roxanne always gets left in the cold. So
Right. Yeah. That was a great scene, and then everything after that was just, what are you doing, guys? What's going on? Why is this happening?
well,
uh,
and that's another part of the shorter episode format that I also don't like is we suddenly get into this pattern of giving you a lot of information early and then doing absolutely nothing with it for like the next 4 episodes, and then the last 2 to 3 are jam packed with trying to resolve as many of the loose ends as they threw at you in the first part.
right.
And um they always miss something. They always miss something. And it leads to people, yeah, you're asking questions. Well, what's going on with this and what's that and whatever. And it's done so that when that season ends, they have something to refer back to as a potential cliffhanger. That's what I've noticed.
Right.
So you feel like you've wrapped up a lot of things, but then they give you that little teaser trailer. Oh, remember that thing they asked about in the very first episode of the season that was super important and no one had an answer to, and we never mentioned it ever again? Well, boom, here it is in the last 30-second clip shot that we're going to give you of the last episode of the season, and that's what we're going to talk about next time. But don't worry, we'll be back in 2 years. Like, what are you doing to me?
Ah, that's basically what happened with Severance, because
Yeah,
they filmed the first season like right at the tail end of the pandemic, and the first season came out in 2022, and it's been 3 years since they finally got season two. It's like, all right, great, but like huge cliffhangers at the end of season one, and now we're finally getting answers. But it's like you can't do that again. I think they already filmed season three, if I remember correctly. I think I heard about that, so I don't think it'll be as big of a problem. But
well, that's the other part of it too. Like, I don't understand, since if we're always doing 10 episodes a season. Let's just say that that's the number they're going to stick with. 10 episodes a season. If
mhm,
you know that beforehand you guys are doing 20 to 26, 24, 26 episodes a season, why wouldn't you keep up your same filming pace, and then it can be like, okay, we're going to release season 1 in January, and then we're going to release season 2 in June.
right,
And so you've filmed them back to back. You've completed your contractual obligation for the year, and then your actors also have new revenue coming in later on in the year because a new season has dropped. So there's not this weird kind of pressure to, hopefully come back and do stuff in a year's time or not, and things are staying fresh and relevant with your fan base. Because I feel like that's the biggest problem that we have with shows these days is you give us 10 episodes, but then, yeah, you're off the air for 2 years, 3 years, whatever it
right,
is. And by the time you're able to cycle back around, your actors have obviously had to move on to other projects. Your fan base has dwindled because you haven't given them new material, so they've been looking for other things to invest their time in.
right,
You lost out on ads, you lost out on production companies, writers. Like, so many things fall through the cracks because you let such a long time go, and people need to get paid. People
yeah,
want to get paid. So
yep,
that's what I would do. I'd be like, okay, yeah, we're gonna still shoot 20 episodes this year, but the first 10 come out from, January to April, and then you have a break. I mean, you've been on break the whole time or whatever it is, but then
right,
we'll release the next part and then just keep doing that.
yeah.
Man, I got to get to Hollywood. I'm doing this all wrong, man. I'm just putting my ideas out here for free.
Well, we talked about
Well,
everything except this episode now, I guess, for
well,
a bit.
I mean, we really have. We really have. We've kind of gone all over. Um, what? So there is a little bit the manipulation of Cassidy Yates to get her
Yeah.
to play. I don't think it's actually discussed in the episode. Like, I don't think it's revealed to her that
Yeah.
Cisco manipulated her schedule
Schedule. Yeah.
to get her to play. She just says it. Something happened, and my next three
Shipments have been
shipments have
rescheduled.
been rescheduled. Oh, bureaucrats, they don't know. And he just doesn't say anything. So,
I guess on a professional level, he can't because he's not supposed to have done it. So to admit to it would be like a problem because now she could bug him, like, hey, you did it before. Why can't you do it next time?
Hmm.
But yeah, on another level, it's totally corrupt. He did it
You used your
all.
position as the emissary to manipulate shipments. Hmm.
I mean, on one level, I don't care. I mean, I feel like anyone deserves a vacation, especially in the middle of a war zone. Like, you can go get some R, and hey, we want some R for Cassidy, for our Deep Space Nine crew. How are they gonna do it? They're just gonna go play around in the Holosuite for a couple hours. All right, fine. Yeah, like that's not a big problem. But yeah, it's funny that she doesn't get it and he doesn't admit to it, but
He
it's
doesn't admit
obvious what
to it,
happened.
right? And like, right, and it's like she doesn't. You don't suspect at all that suddenly these shipments that you were scheduled to do have all last minute been rescheduled. You're completely free, and by the way, your boyfriend's rival is here, and you're going to play in this game.
I need
Uh,
you here right now, babe. Wink,
yeah.
wink.
Like it wasn't suspicious at all. He greets her with the flowers. He's acting all different from the last time that she saw him, which if we remember, was in the episode that we saw her anyway, was the sound of her voice. He was being very standoffish with her. We knew that they were supposed to be having a conversation. We don't get to see the conversation, but we know they were supposed to be having a conversation about the status of their relationship. Um, we could assume that some kind of conversation took place, but based upon her reaction here to him, probably wasn't as detailed or in depth as maybe it could have been, because she seems very surprised that he's greeting her with flowers, and he's laying on the sweet talk and the charm, and she's even saying, "Are you okay? Like, this isn't this is not normal."
Right.
So, are you okay? Okay, well, hey, if you're feeling good, I'm going to go right along with it. By the way, baseball, come play, you know? And she didn't seem to question it for a second. So, but I like seeing Ben and Cassie together, to be honest. I like that they seem to be working on some level.
Yeah.
Um,
How long have they been a couple now? What season was she introduced in?
I think she was introduced.
I feel like it was season three.
I was gonna say, I think it was season 3, and then we don't see her again until kind of towards the end of season 4,
Yeah.
and then she goes to jail and comes back in 5. I think that's right.
Right.
I think that's right. So, um, so they've been together for a little bit now. Here we are in season 7. So if we're saying that they've been together at least since season 3, with not counting the break, because even when she was in jail, he was still with her. He wasn't seeing anyone else or anything like
Right.
that. So then from season 3 to now, so yeah, they've got a strong 4-year relationship going.
Oh, I'd almost argue five. It's up. It's beyond four. Four and some. Yeah, four and
Yeah,
some.
4 and some change.
Yeah.
I'll accept that.
Yeah, that's a good bit of time to be together, but I know their relationship is kind of sporadic because of the nature of their being away
Their
from each other.
jobs
But
and stuff, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, they seem to be very much, despite all that, committed to each other. Um, so I like that. I like that for him. I like that he seems to have been, working on himself and moving on to a certain degree. Yeah, I like them together. I think they look good together.
right. Yeah, I agree.
And we finally get to see Jake and Nog. We haven't seen either one of them in quite some time, and they're in an episode together, no less.
Well, Jake
So
we saw as a part of the opening part of this season, but you're right. Together, haven't seen them together in a while. Nog, it's been a little bit. Yeah.
well, that's it. I think that's all of our characters. We don't have any more to say
I
about
mean,
these
this
guys
episode
in this
is
episode.
boom. There's really not much else to say. Oh goodness.
Well, all right, guys. I think that will wrap it up for us. We are going to be back to talk about um, the Expanse soon. I would like to know, anybody been actually following along with the series at all, whether you have just watched it on Amazon, or if you've been following along with the books at all. I'd like to know what you think of the series. So if someone could just kind of like, just one or two little things, if you want to just send us a message via Facebook, I'd just like to hear from you on that.
Or the
And
YouTube page. Yeah.
yeah, or the YouTube page. You can just put on the comment on this video since it'll be up here in a couple minutes, and just say whether or not you enjoy the series or not. Or if you never watched it or whatever it is, just want to know. I do know that the series has officially left Amazon. So if you want to watch it now, you have to buy it. Or I don't know what new thing it's on. I think I heard that it was like still available on Roku or something like that. One of those things,
Right.
Roku, Tubi, whatever those are. So there's that. Um, New Trek updates. There really aren't any. The new season of Strange New Worlds is still on schedule. Should be coming out to us fairly soon. I do know that they've already finished filming season 4 for Strange New Worlds. Um, so again, they're ahead of themselves on that. I feel like they're probably taking what I was saying and doing it like they're filming the seasons back to back since they've got the actors under contract and getting it knocked out. So, because it seems like every time I check for an update on them, it's always been, oh, they finished season 1 and they've already finished season 2. Now just waiting on the release. Okay, here's season 2. Well, they've already filmed 3 and 4. And now here we are with season 4 or season 3, and we know that 4 is already done. Whether or not they've actually started working on season 5, absolutely no one knows. There's a current theory that all new Trek shows are going to stop at the fifth season. The fifth season is always going to be the final season. Discovery only got to 5 seasons. Um, um, Lower Decks only had 5 seasons. Prodigy has two, but there has been some talk of them coming back for another one. The issue with Prodigy is that it now exclusively is on Netflix, and Netflix has a tendency to stop shows after about the third season anyway. So if they do a third season, that may be it for that show, unless Paramount gets it back. And Paramount right now doesn't seem to, um, have any plans to do that at this time. So there's that.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's it, guys. There's nothing else here for us. If you yes, Vincent, in the comments there, quite fond of someone named Avasarala. Yes, she's as close as I will ever come to wanting to marry a fictional character, and I'll own that 100%. I love the character Christian Avasarala. Doesn't hurt that she's played expertly by Sheree Agdashlu on the show. So yeah, absolutely.
She is
There.
fantastic. If you have to watch the show for one reason, you have to watch it for her.
Uh,
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if the show was a solid 7, let's just say, she makes it a 10.
If the
There you go.
show only had her scenes in it, it would be a solid 10.
There you go.
I'm not
There
even
you
kidding.
go.
She's great. Like her plot lines are always on point. Very important to the rest of this, what's going on. And
Absolutely. So much so that in the current book that I'm reading in the series, the opening line was so devastating, it took me an extra week to begin reading the book because it announced her passing and I couldn't handle it. So, yeah, very important, very wonderful character. So, go
the
check them
fact
out.
that you
You
would
should go read
say that you enjoy this book and that she's now past, you didn't love her. You never loved her, Perry.
them. I'm still holding on to hope that they're going to run into like a treasure trove of recordings of her with last instructions, with her being the funny, irascible wit that I've come to know and love and expect. And it will be so touching to hear that she left these last messages to Holden and company. And it just took them a long time to get to a point where they could finally access them and hear them. So hopefully that happens. Wait,
Totally.
we're waiting to see. Waiting to see. Well, all right, guys, that is really going to do it for us. I don't think I can stretch this episode anymore. I really tried.
We did. We did.
Um, again, great fun episode. Loved everything about it. Obviously, we have no problem with bottle episodes here. Tune in next week where we will be back talking about the next one in the series, and then we're going to get to the Expanse as well. So yeah, that's it. So until next week, guys, take care of yourselves.
Thanks, guys.